And the thing that a mentor does oftentimes is like a mentor generally has more experience than you in the thing you're trying to do. And they've also kind of walked through some of those paths and have made the mistakes. And a good mentor can get their point across to you in a way that you can understand without having to go make the damn mistake. Because that's really the most expensive way to learn. The best way to learn is by observance.
You are listening to the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, brought to you by Salt Electrolytes. On this podcast, your host, Riley Rogers, explores the stories of people who get after it, get things done, and earn their salt. You will hear from high achievers who discuss what makes them tick, how they got to where they are today, and where they're headed tomorrow. Perhaps this podcast will help you go earn your salt. Today we have my friend Tim Freeman on here. Tim is the host of the Inside BJJ podcast and of the Bullpen, which is a Jiu Jitsu kind of. Do you guys do MMA too? Is that part of the Bullpen? Kind of follow. I mean, those
sometimes
sports?
those topics will come up. Pro wrestling, MMA. Lately, we've been talking a lot about Otani because the algorithm seems to favor him. But yeah, in the Bullpen, it's like a weekly grappling show where we mix in lots of other stuff too.
Yeah, so Tim and I got to know each other, through Instagram. Really was the original, and then I've gotten to hang out in person a little bit, but definitely over the phone and over the InstaWebs. And so we've gotten to know each other, and I've gotten pretty interested in Tim and his story and what he's got going on. He's a double jiu-jitsu black belt in the gi and no gi, which is kind of cool. That's not important to everybody on here, but it's important to Tim and I. We get that, and that's a huge achievement. And then, but he's also a business owner and an athlete himself, and so Tim juggles a lot of things and has a pretty fascinating story here. So Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Riley. It's great to be here, and we have kept in contact. I talk on the phone with you more than I do with other people, to be honest. I usually keep everything to text with people. I'm like, just text me. Yeah. But it's great to be here, man. And all these things you brought up, when I hear them, I always think I didn't plan any of this. Like, it wasn't like I had these like goals written down. I'm like, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I just got a motor and I like to pursue things. And once I bite down on something, I have maybe to a fault, I have a hard time letting go. And so I tend to accumulate lots of jobs. and
I'm actually curious about that, man. I want to talk about that as we get going here, but I want to tell us who you are and where you're from and what life was like as a kid.
Yeah. So I grew up out in Stockton, California, and most people know Stockton not for anything good. It's like the city that's only known for bad things. There was, in the 80s, there was a school shooting. In the early 2000s, there was the mortgage meltdown epicenter. It was often when Newsweek would come up with a list of like the top 10 cities, Stockton was only in there if it was like for crime, aggravated assault, illiteracy, unhealthy index. It was all stuff like that. That was basically where I got my foundation and my formulation of humanity and society and how to exist and communicate in a very hostile environment at times. But so I grew up out in Stockton. As a kid, I was the runt of the pack. So there was a group of us, and I was the youngest and the smallest, the last to grow. I was kind of a short little pudgy dude growing up. And often my cousin, Big MF, who is the infamous co-host of Inside BJJ from time to time, when we were growing up, he's a few years older than me, and I really looked up to him. I'm like, man, this guy's awesome. And he would say when he was 12 or 13, he'd say, I'm going to be 6'2", 220 when I grow up. And he's like, maybe you'll get to 5'7" or 5'8". This is what they were telling me, right? This is the way it's going to be. Huh? Yeah, as a kid. And I'm like, okay, that's how it's going to be. But eventually, I hit a growth spurt and actually am much taller than He stopped at like 5'7", which is so great. I laugh about it all the time.
Did he make 220 though? That's what I want to know.
Oh, he did make 220 and then some. But growing up like that, I was kind of a late bloomer and those kinds of things. I wasn't particularly athletic or really into a lot. We grew up very like into church. My dad was a pastor, still is. We were very like built into that. And it was like Soldiers for Christ reporting for duty kind of church. Like we were like into church, which is fine. I learned a lot of great things in that. But, as a young adult, kind of getting married and moving out into the world, it was a little bit of a difficult transition to kind of develop relationships with people that weren't from your particular background. We were kind of insulated in that sense. But yeah, I started training jiu-jitsu in 2005. And again, through my older cousin, we had grown up loving the UFC and pro wrestling and boxing and all this stuff. And when we had watched the UFC for the first time, somebody gave my cousin the VHS tape of UFC 2. And he worked at Office Depot at the time, right? And this guy that he worked with, Dave Lozen, who's a great big shout out to Dave. He's a black belt, Dark Wolf MMA out in Orlando, Florida. He's an awesome dude. He's an OG Stockton guy. He was a martial artist too. Nobody was exactly grappling or doing jiu-jitsu exactly, but he knew that my cousin Matt liked fighting and was a rough guy. And so he said, come out into the parking lot. I got something to give you. And he was very secretive about it. And they got out to the parking lot and Dave produces this like rumpled up brown bag and he hands it to my cousin. My cousin like unrolls it and looks in it and there's a VHS cassette. And my cousin's thinking that Dave's giving him some like pornography video. He has no idea. He's like, what is this? Is this like Faces of Death? What is this? There was no internet then. Yeah, if you had weird stuff, it had to be on tape and you had to do it in secret, right? So he takes it home, he throws it in, and it's UFC 2. And it's Hoist Gracie and Ken Shamrock and all these characters from back in that time. And my cousin was hooked on it. And I liked it, but I did not like the Gracies. I did not like jiu-jitsu. I thought Hoist was tricking people. I thought he had a rope in his sleeve somehow. I couldn't get past like this Brazilian dude in a karate uniform who is like whooping these dudes that are yoked and just look tough. It really bothered me. I was like, I don't like these jiu-jitsu guys. Well, they had mentioned the Lion's Den is at the time it was in Lodi, California, which is like 11 miles from Stockton. Half of our family lives in Lodi. So my cousin, as soon as he turned 18, he was at the Lion's Den, signed up, training with these guys. And we lived together. This was in 99. We lived together. And when he first started training with those guys, and I remember he would come home busted up and he'd say like, oh, today I met Jerry Bolander. Today I met Pete Williams. And these were guys that like we were kind of seeing in the fights. And he's like, dude, Frank Shamrock was there today. He almost kicked my ass because I walked on the mat with shoes on. It's like a real true story, right?
Yeah.
So he was into it. And he'd like double leg me and put me in key locks and stuff. I didn't know what the heck he was doing. And a few years later in 05, so I guess about 6 years later, he had moved down to Riverside. He was still in the fighting world. And I had a son. He was probably 2.5 at the time. And I was getting kind of out of shape. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do? So I'm like, I'm going to try jiu-jitsu. So I called him and said, hey man, would jiu-jitsu be good? Even if I could go once a week, this is my plan. I'm going to be a once a week casual guy. And right, I didn't plan any of this. And he's like, yes, you need to do jiu-jitsu. And so I said, well, where should I go? And he goes, you go to Pacific Coast Martial Arts in Stockton at the time. It was on Flora Street. Not a great neighborhood, but that's neither here nor there. And he goes, I want you to go in, ask for Nick Diaz, tell him Matt Freeman sent you. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in and ask for Nick Diaz. Tell him Matt Freeman sent me. And I had heard my cousin reference this guy, Nick Diaz, but I didn't quite have a gist for like any. So I go in there and I open up the door and the dude at the front desk is there, and I'm like, hey, I'm here to see Nick Diaz, right? And I got like sweatpants on, like a Hanes chunky white t-shirt, you know, I'm just like not the guy, you know. And he's like, oh, that's him over there. He points across the gym. I see this guy. So I walk over there, and there's a couple dudes standing by him, and I would just walk up to him. I don't know. You know, I'm like, are you Nick Diaz? And he's like, yeah. And I said, Matt Freeman sent me. And he goes, who the fuck is Matt Freeman?
Sounds
and then I'm
right.
like, like I realized this has potential to go another way, right? So I kind of stumbled on my words a little bit. I'm like, he said he trained with you, and then he said I should come down here and train. And then in classic Nick Diaz fashion, he goes from I'm gonna murder you to no, it's cool, homie. And he goes, oh man, I probably know him. I just don't remember the name. I bet if I saw his face, it'd be cool. We don't really have class tonight, but since you're here, I'm gonna give you a private lesson. And it gives me an hour private lesson. My first day ever on the jiu-jitsu mat. I go up there like a moron and ask for him. I feel like I'm going to get my butt kicked when he responds. And then he ends up being cool and gives me a lesson in jiu-jitsu. So I started training there, and like, I don't know, I kept doing it. It was so honest and real in terms of like, I just knew you can't fake your way through this, dude. Like, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to do it. And it's going to be a lot of hard work, and it's going to take a long time. And so I was like, yep, sign me up, man. And that's kind of how I got my start in jiu-jitsu, man. I was 27 when I started. I mean, I didn't feel young then, but now when I look back, I was like, I was young, 27, like, dang. I was wishing, you know, you always wish you started jiu-jitsu 10 years before you did.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So you could already be a black belt when you were really a white belt, right? That's how everybody thinks, like, dang, if I had to start in 95. But yeah, man, that's kind of my early life, who I was. Had a different, not a traditional background. I went to homeschool from the 7th to the 11th grade, when homeschool was lame. Like, it wasn't remote learning. It wasn't independent studies. There was no like, oh, I meet up with these kids 3 times a week and I get to play on this high school's team. No, this was like, either you're a really bad kid and no school will have you, or your parents do not want you around the rest of the kids. And so I was kind of like that kid. So I had I had a job when I was 13. I was working at the mall, running a booth for these Canadian guys that had these booths all up and down the Central California Valley. And they're like, man, you know, you're pretty trustworthy for 13 years old. What do you think about opening up each morning? And I'm like, okay, as long as I could get a ride. And I just worked and like kind of lived, and I finished school, went to college, like did all that stuff, but it was just not traditional. It was very, very different. I'm grateful for it now.
I was going to ask you, because that kind of early on put some seeds in your mind of like, hey, man, I can actually work. And you learn those lessons, right? Where other kids, it's 5, 6, 7 years later before they start learning how to work. And you're early if you're 13, you know?
Yeah, I was early, and my parents were really good people, but most of their concern was whether we were like going to church or not. And like, if we were doing all that stuff right, then they're like, yeah, you could have a job when you're 13. Sure. As long as you're in church, you're good. So, I mean, you know, but in a way, there were a lot of things that I learned, and I figured out at a very early age that nobody was going to give me anything. Right? It's like, hey, if you want something, you want to get a car, you want to get a bicycle, you want to do something, like, you're going to have to kind of get it because we didn't have a lot. And, you know, that's neither here nor there, but I realized early on, like, you can do it if you want it. You can do it. You can do just about anything you want to do. It's just, the question is like, do you want it? And the challenge is often when we get there, it's good, but it's not what we thought it was. It's different. It's not that it's worse. It's just not what we thought it was. And that could be hard for people on their way to whatever their goal is, when they start to realize like, this is maybe harder, or it's more work, or it's a different kind of challenge, or whatever, right? It's hard for people at that point. That's kind of that point where I think people ask themselves, like, is this really worth it? Is this what I want to do? I don't know. There's no guarantee. So I just say all there is work. You just keep working.
That's a really cool perspective, man, because I think we all do that with goals, right? We'll set these big old goals. And I've talked about it before on this podcast, where that's why I wanted to or one of the factors that kept me in jiu-jitsu was like, man, there's not very many things in life that are a decade long, or 10 to 15 year long push for a thing. And that was attractive to me. I was like, I've done all these other triathlons and half marathons, and you train for a few months and then you do the event, and then there's this big letdown. I was like, man, I need something longer term to not have that letdown, right? And I hear that a little bit in what you're saying is like, you start pressing towards a goal, but then maybe these big goals are so long that you start to wonder, man, it's changing my life for a long time to do this thing. Is it worth it, right?
Yeah. Yes. And it's hard to really count the cost up front. Like you can think you have it all figured out, but there's some stuff you just don't learn until you do it. And that's just part of the game, right? That's how you get experience, which is why experience is so valuable. Is oftentimes it's riddled with mistakes and painful lessons, but they're extremely valuable to you moving forward. So, yeah.
You mentioned, early on, I said I wanted to get back to it, was this idea of once you latch on to something, you have a hard time letting go, right? Talk about that a little bit, because like I had mentioned in the intro, you've got a black belt gi and no gi, which you're the first person I ever met that's ever done that. I've set those two apart. Once most people, it's like once they're a black belt either way, and they're just a black belt, right?
Yeah.
But you separated that, and that takes a different level of dedication. Will you tell that story?
Yeah, for sure. So I've always been, and I think because I was homeschooled, I kind of developed, an ability to learn for myself and kind of teach myself and realize like, hey, I gotta like stick to this. It could take a minute. I definitely didn't teach myself jiu-jitsu, but when I started, this is something I told my wife when we got married. I said, because people were telling us like, you don't know what it's like to be in love until you've been in love for 20 years and blah, blah, blah. And I would say like, yeah, you're probably right, but I'm 23 years old, so how could I know that, right?
Yeah.
So I always told my wife, I don't know what it all is, but I'm committed. I could be committed. I could just make a commitment right now. I could settle the question right now. I'm committed to seeing this through, whatever it is. That's basically what your vows are anyway. That's what you're kind of saying. Look, we don't know. It could be this. It could be that. It could be this. It could be that. But I'm going to stick this out. I kind of take that mindset with things that I do. And I don't just like frivolously jump onto projects. I say no to most stuff. And I think about things for a long time in my head. And sometimes it almost seems like, man, this guy's not going to do. He talks about this thing he's going to do, but he's not going to do it. No, what it is once I kind of make the decision to do it, I'm really making the commitment. I'm saying like, I'm going to see this through, and this is going to be more than 3 months. This might be 3 years or 13 years. I don't know. It just depends on what it is. So that has kind of been like one of the factors, I think, in my progress in jiu-jitsu. Like I never thought I would be a black belt. I totally just wanted to get to blue belt. Thought if I could get to a blue belt, I could beat, 80% of the population. Because look, in 2005, like jiu-jitsu was starting to grow, but it was different. YouTube wasn't YouTube. There were DVDs and there were books. I went to Borders and Barnes and Noble and I bought grappling books. Where you watch VHS cassettes. It was just a little harder to get information. So I knew that it was going to take a while, but I thought if I could get a blue belt, like that's a huge achievement. And then I trained, and it took me almost 2 years. And somewhere around that point, I got my blue belt and I felt really good, but it was like at that point I had enough grappling experience that I knew that a blue belt was really just kind of like passing like the first, few weeks of your semester in college. Like you're just getting started. And which is hard to hear, because I remember an instructor came and taught a class one time, and I was been a blue belt for a year or so, and he said, hey, for you beginner students, like everybody who's a blue belt and below, like you guys are new, you need to work on this. And I kind of was like, I'm not new, I've been training for almost 3 years, but I kind of realized now, like, yeah, I was kind of new, and it took a while, but I stuck with the gi for about almost, I guess, 10 years before I started training no gi. And I always felt like this. I always felt like I'm trying to master this thing called Jiu Jitsu. Like I'm trying to just at least figure it out as I was learning it. I don't have any business trying to learn any other combat. I never trained any striking at the time. I did cross train in judo a little bit because I felt like it was kind of the same in terms of like, it fed into the jiu-jitsu success in my brain. We used to take the gi off 1 month out of the year in Stockton in July when it's like the hottest month, and we just train no gi for a month and then immediately forget everything that I would learn no gi, and we were trying to do like rubber guard and twister and lockdown. I mean, that was like basically what we were trying to do no gi. So, I was kind of dabbling a tiny bit in 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, but I just mostly was training in the gi. And around blue belt, I had a good training partner who was kind of one of my main instructors at the time in the gi. And he had a situation where he was available pretty much Monday through Friday, and he could train, and he had a key to the gym. And I was working in software engineering. I was working from home. So every day I took my lunch break and we trained together. And over doing that for about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, I got significantly better at jiu-jitsu. And this guy was very self-defense oriented in the beginning, because there's a lot of things I didn't know. And we went through a lot of that, and it was extremely helpful to me. And so I kind of got bit by the bug. And then like when you're training all the time, then you don't want to drop back to once a week. I was like, once a week. And that's the point for me when I realized I'm going to have to start reorganizing things in my life, because this commitment that I made to do this now is starting to like expand a little bit. And I have a wife and I have kids and I have a career, and I'm not trying to press any of that or cut that out. But hey, I was an avid San Francisco Giants fan. I love football, love the 49ers, watched basketball, always into the sports. And at a certain point, I was like, I think I'm going to stop watching sports. Like I can't do it. I can't be training all the time, going to work, and then come home and then be like, hey, I'm going to watch the game. It's like, that's not going to work. That doesn't serve me for what I'm trying to do. And so slowly I started kind of moving things around that, were less important to me. And I guess that's a sacrifice in a way, but it was a sacrifice I wanted to make for sure. And, late stage brown belt in the gi, I started training no gi. I had a friend, Carl Sims, the great Carl Sims up in Utah, who started the Proving Grounds Invitational. And it was a sub only. I think they did EBI rules. I can't remember, but I think they did. But he was really early on, one of the first promotions to kind of jump on it. And he's like, why don't you come up and do a super fight?
This was what year?
Boy.
Because EBI, like the whole EBI rules didn't start coming around until,
I would have to say this was 2015, maybe.
So I was thinking, yeah.
2014, 2015. Yeah. Yeah, somewhere around there. And so, yeah, because I started jiu-jitsu in 2005, and I got my black belt in 2016 in the gi. So it had to be right around that time period. So, I went up there, and so I started training no gi. And what happened was I started getting beat by dudes that I could beat in the gi. And it kind of irritated me, but it exposed a weakness in my grappling. And that one, which is the common one everybody says, but I was too reliant on the gi for offense. So, the ability to hold somebody down from top, the ability to set up chokes, arm locks, it was all very gi grip oriented with the material. And my offense wasn't that great without the gi on. And some of my guard games and my sweeps were non-existent. So it was rough. And I realized, like, hey, there's other parts of grappling that I'm not doing because of the jacket. Not that the jacket is evil. It just kind of filters out a lot of other things. They don't take place. The gi game is like a little more static. It's like static, fast, 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 static, fast, 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 static. There's like lots of, it's like an earthquake that's real shaky and sharp.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's less like classic wrestling transitions because the gi just slows it down or just kills it, right? So there was so much wrestling that I had no clue of, and there was a lot of top control that I just wasn't good at without the jacket on. And so then in 2016, I opened a gym, ended up leaving the school I was at, which was very difficult to do. And I opened a gym with another person, a business partner, and we kind of ran it where it was like gi on one day, no gi the next. It just alternated every day, gi, no gi, gi, no gi. And I started training no gi a lot. I was always really good friends with Casey Halstead, Coach Casey out of 10th Planet Las Vegas. I should say not always, but I met Casey in my travel. So in this time, I'd started Inside BJJ, right? A podcast and kind of covering jiu-jitsu. This was in like 2012, I think. And there just wasn't a lot of people covering jiu-jitsu. It was all covered by dorks like me that were no podcast, all this cool stuff we have now, like all this stuff, none of it existed. There was no equipment that was made for podcasts. Nope. The hardest thing to figure out was, how do I have an analog, old school mixer board and mics, and how do I hook that into a telephone so I can hear them and they can hear me and the guests that are live can hear? And and I didn't know what I was doing. I just tinkered with stuff. And so I had met lots of people through Inside BJJ, just going places, talking to people, showing up with equipment, driving all over. And Casey is one of these people I was very fortunate in my life to meet. He turned out to be a very good mentor for me in jiu-jitsu, and especially on the business side of things. And so, I was talking to him quite a bit during this time. I had known Eddie. I'd done some work for EBI. Eddie had been on the podcast a bunch of times. I hung out with him once or twice. It wasn't like we were homies or anything, but I had a working relationship with Eddie. And even though, nobody was paying and it was just like, we were all kind of figuring it out, I always treated it as professional as I could. I was always respectful. I showed up on time. I knew there was no pay. I never went into anything expecting to be paid. And I kind of didn't even get the guys that did. It's like, dude, there's no money in this. If you don't know you're coming for free, then you should just stay home, because there's no money. This is all a passion because we love doing it, and we're hoping somehow this catches fire, right? And so through my kind of relationships with Eddie and the 10th Planet Association, I started training with some 10th Planet guys on and off. Not a ton. Not like, hey, I'm 10P for life. I don't act that way because that's not who I am, right? It's not how it happened. But I was training and everything was good at my gym with my partner. It was spectacular until it wasn't. And then it was just like, mid-flight break apart explosion. And I got out, I sold my half and just was like, I want to just do something by myself. Like, I don't want to have a person I'm relying on. And sometimes you have to, but man, it's not easy. So
talk about that a little bit, Tim, because I think that's really interesting for listeners of this podcast is that business partnerships, man, there's some pitfalls. You said it was amazing till it wasn't. So what happened there? What made it not amazing? Business owners, I want to talk to you for a second. Do you have a retail space inside your location? If so, I want you to think about something. Your customers are buying electrolytes. You know that, right? The problem is they're not buying them from you. Well, Salty Electrolytes can help fix that with their wholesale program. They can bring these sales to you in-house so that your customers get the electrolytes they love from the company they love, you. All you have to do is head over to goearnyoursalt.com and scroll to the bottom of the page and click Apply for Wholesale. Do it now before you forget. I know your type, I'm one of you. Once again, that's goearnyoursalt.com. The link is at the bottom of the homepage. There will also be a link in the description on this video. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
Yes. Okay. I will. Let me wrap up the no gi black belt, then I'll circle back to that. Sorry, I'm super long winded. I apologize.
No, go for it. Go for it.
So we had that split, and then I was in a situation where I had a little chunk of cash, no students, no gym, no nothing, and so I thought I'm gonna talk to Eddie and see what his thoughts are about having a 10th Planet in Stockton. And so I called Casey first and, said, hey man, this is what I'm thinking, but you're my friend before all this. And if you don't think it's a good idea, then just say so. And I'll open another gym. I just won't pursue this avenue. And he's like, no, I think you would be great for 10th Planet. I'm going to talk to Eddie. So he called Eddie, and then Eddie told Casey, I know Tim. I'm going to call Tim direct. And so Eddie called me, and he's like, dude, we got to put a 10th Planet in Stockton. Let's go. That's iconic. 209. Let's do it. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. And he goes, well, you're not a 10th Planet black belt. Because you're a black belt in the gi, you're just going to be a 10th Planet brown belt. And he's like, and it's going to take a while, so don't rush to get promoted. And I was like, I'm not. And he goes, you got a couple months to get certified with Eddie. So there's a few things he wants to see, wants you to be able to do and demonstrate. And my first pass through, he's like, that's not it, Doug. So I was like, damn, okay. And, that was difficult because at that time I was 40 years old. And I'm like, what am I doing? I've been training jiu-jitsu for 13 years. I got a black belt. I left this gym that I was at forever. I opened my own gym with a partner, and it was spectacular, and then it wasn't. And now I'm going like, I just got my black belt not too long ago. I'm willing to step back down and be like, I'm a brown belt, and I'm just going to let's just see how this works over here, and let's just try it. And so it was almost like starting over, except I had 11 years of grappling experience, which is super beneficial, right? So I opened 10th Planet Stockton, and I always took the approach with 10th Planet. I always felt like there's 10th Planet guys that have come up from white belt. They've been training, and they have dreams and goals of owning a gym. And some of them, for whatever reason, they haven't been able to do it. Maybe it's resources. Maybe Eddie says not now. I don't know. Maybe they don't have the right support. They're just not in a place to do it. And I was able to do it. So I never wanted to put myself up at the front. I always put myself in the back and took the approach of how can I be a support for these other 10th Planet schools that are already there? How can I build into the community, add value to what we're doing, and not, try to step up into the front? Look what we're 10, all this stuff. It's just nah, you got to kind of earn your spot. And so at least that's how I viewed it. And that's the approach I took. And I did jiu-jitsu, I did 10th Planet jiu-jitsu for 7 years before Eddie gave me a black belt. He let me sit and train and practice. And to be honest, I appreciated it because there's a lot of things I needed to learn, and I needed to build relationships in the association, and I needed to pull my weight and prove myself, and so Eddie promoted me to black belt in 2024, which was great. It was crazy because I've always known who Eddie Bravo was since I started jiu-jitsu, and I never in my wildest dreams, never, not on mushrooms, not on acid, not on anything, ever thought Eddie Bravo would give me a black belt, but he did. So that's how I ended up with 2 black belts. And I'll say this, I'm not the best jiu-jitsu dude in the world. I got a lot of good stuff. I feel like I'm a pretty decent instructor. I have a lot of great students. I just think I'm good at showing up, man, and putting work in. And I don't complain much. I just did what I was told and did my best and competed at all the belt levels, competed up to, I think, 41. I think when I was 41, I was like, you know what, man, it's pretty hard to run a school, work a job, have a family, and try to be a competitor, you know? Yeah, it was rough. It's hard on your body too. Like, it was stressful. And my attitude going into competition was like, I want to be competitive at every belt level. I don't got to be the world champion because I was 27 when I started. So I figured that ship has sailed, like, you know,
Sure.
But if I can just be competitive at each belt, if I can win matches, I could beat guys at each level, I could be competitive, put up a good fight, then for me, I was okay with that because I felt like that's going to make me a better coach. Because now I know what these guys are going through. I know what it means to cut weight. I know what it means to show up, have to fight some dude that is intimidating, or, you know, maybe you don't have your team with you at the event because somebody couldn't go or whatever. Like, I get it. I know what that's like. So anyway, that's how I got 2 black belts, man. It was never the plan. It was just like, I just keep showing up. So thank God. I can't even believe I did it. To be honest, I still can't believe it, but I'm really proud of it. But I also feel like there's still a lot to learn. So.
Oh, yeah, they always say that black belt's when you can really start learning, right? And I think that's what you're saying.
You start over. Yeah. So business partner thing, you had asked me about.
Yeah.
What happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Coach Casey gave me some advice that I didn't follow, and it was a mistake. He said, when you set up your partnership, you need to set up your exit clause for your partnership, which is basically, if any of these kinds of things happen, then our partnership is going to end, and here's how we're going to end it. Like, here's the steps.
What example of things?
So let's say somebody does something illegal. No, I'm not trying to say that that's what happened, but let's say somebody does something illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, okay, well, if someone does something illegal, then here's how we're going to handle it with our partnership. Or if somebody has a major life event, like you decide, you want to move, or you have a baby, or your wife gets sick, or your wife wants to move. Lots of, like, life's changed, life changes for people. So people kind of go into these businesses. Maybe they're single when they start, and then they end up having a wife, or maybe they have a wife but no kids and they end up having kids, or maybe they have a wife and then they don't have a wife, like maybe they go through a divorce, maybe. So there's lots of things that kind of change people's lives and their motivations and what they're looking for. And sometimes if you're tied to somebody in a joint venture and they start having these shifts and their perspective changes and their wants change, that can directly impact what you're doing. And so, you kind of need a thought out process for how are we going to bail out of this if something happens. We didn't have that. And we didn't have it because I wanted to go into it on good faith. Like, hey man, we know each other. We both know what we want. We're both committed to working hard. So let's like be good with each other and be honest and be fair, and let's get this done. And it was kind of like that, and it kind of wasn't. So the other challenge is that when you go into a partnership with somebody, and there's a lot of work that has to be done and you have to rely on each other, it's kind of like getting married to that person. And, you know, you learn a lot about people. And sometimes, you know, you see people do things where you're like, oh, I wouldn't do that. But this person just did. And now that's an insight into this person's character. And it's kind of like, I hate to say red flag because everybody uses red flag. That's a red flag. But, you know, that's sometimes stuff happens. It really is a red flag. And like, you know, there were a few things where I approach business like this. If you and I are going to be partners, then I am going to do my damnedest not to do anything that's going to mess up your life. And that means the business, your home life, your relationships. Like, I'm not going to put you in jeopardy because I'm doing something wrong that I know is wrong. It doesn't mean you can't make a mistake. Like, I thought this was the right choice. It turns out it was the wrong choice. And now the business is like suffering. Okay. That's business. Right. But if you choose to like, hey, I'm going to do this and I know this is not the right thing to do. And I'm not going to tell my partner, I'm going to hide it from them because I know they won't like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then I, the partner, find out, you know, 2 months later that something happened, right? So things like that started cropping up. And there was a particular thing that was like, this is not good, dog, because now you're not just impacting the business, you're impacting my family's ability to have a regular life and the roof over their head. And when you jeopardize that, then we can't do this. And so that it was really, really difficult. And, you know, I try to go into negotiations in a way that goes like, what do I want? What do I ultimately want? Where can I be satisfied and say, yes, I'll agree to this and walk away from the table and not have resentment, right? And that other person can also have whatever they need to be satisfied and not have resentment. Because even if you negotiate and you come out and you feel like, yeah, I came out of the negotiation, if that other person's super pissed at you, it's going to be, you're going to have a real damn time actually fulfilling that agreement, right? And I tried to come into it like that. I presented some options and everything was just like, no. So, you know, it was like, okay, what am I going to do? So I had to be a very hard negotiator and basically like say, okay, well, I can do this or I can do this. And if neither of these work, then I'm going to do this. And that was what was like, okay, let's make a deal. And it was hard, man, because one is like a lot of the students there, they don't like me now, right? Some of them do. They're super cool with me. Some of them came to my new gym. And one of the agreements was like, hey, we're not going to tell students about what's happening because this is a business. I'm not trying to hurt the business. This is something I started with somebody. I don't want to set it on fire. I want it to thrive. And if I'm walking away with cash, then in good faith, I'm not going to try to sabotage what you're doing. But that's just because you got to have integrity and you got to have some level of ethics to your life, or what are you doing? Right. So I, you know, got in a situation where word got, you know, things got misrepresented to students. And then there were people that to this day, there are people in that gym that are new to jiu-jitsu that I don't know, that don't like me because my name keeps coming up over there. At my gym, nobody knows anything about those people. I don't give them any air, nothing. Nobody even knows they exist. It's not important. Like, I'm moving forward. That was the whole kind of thing with that, is like, yeah, you spend some time, you're pissed, you're mad, this, that, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, all that is wasted effort if you're not moving forward to where you're going. So, you know, the hard thing I learned was, one, having a partner is really hard. It's a serious decision. And number two is you got to have a very clear working agreement that spells out worst case scenario, bad human behavior shit. Because if you're not willing to address that up front, then it's going to be a nightmare if it happens on the back end. Because then how are you going to fix it then? Because one, the person's not going to tell you. It's going to be hidden. It's going to be a secret. You're never going to get the whole story. And there's going to be, it's going to be nasty. It's already going to be hard, but now it's going to be nasty. So that was super difficult to go through. And it kind of soured me a little bit on the jiu-jitsu world, just a little bit. It's like, man, this is a rough game. And I remember I called Coach Casey and I was kind of complaining a little bit about it. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to like have to be like, with people and like, He's like, hey, brother, if you don't want to have blood on your hands, you're in the wrong business. If you're in the martial arts gym owning business, you're going to have some people that do not like you. And no matter what you do, that's going to be part of it. And if you're not comfortable, if you can't be comfortable with that, then this is not for you. And so then I'm like, okay, well, I guess I better get comfortable having some blood on my hands. Better get good with a sword.
You're in Nashville, man. Do you ever listen to Dave Ramsey, any of his stuff?
Oh yeah, I know who Dave Ramsey is. Yeah.
Have you ever heard him talk about the 6 Ds of partnerships?
No.
Oh, it's fascinating, man. Because he says you gotta have in your pre-agreement, up front. What happens if one person dies? That's a D, right?
Oh yeah.
Because one of them could die. What happens if they get a divorce? Because now you're splitting their half with their ex-wife, who's mad at you because you represent him, and it's
right. Right.
What happens if there's drug use? What happens if the partner goes out and goes in debt, borrows a bunch of money on your business without your knowledge? Because he's part owner, right?
Right.
What happens in if there's deceit, if they just decide to somehow cheat you, which you said illegal activity was kind of an example you brought up, and then what was the other one? Anyways, it's a series of these. There's and it's fascinating to me because that stuff happens, man. And if you don't have something figured out, disinterest was the other one. The one party, you said, moves away or just decides that I'm not showing up to work anymore, but I still want my half.
Right.
Yeah, those are all real things.
And you don't want to think about them because it's kind of a bummer. It's like thinking about, well, when you get married, it's like thinking about what happens if my spouse gets dismembered. Like, you don't want to think about that. It's uncomfortable. But, oftentimes one of these D's comes up in a business often, right? And if they're not talked about and kind of handled up front and at least accounted for and kind of made known, like, hey, these are the things that we don't want and we will look for it. I think that level of accountability makes everybody more successful. Anyone's susceptible to messing up. Given the right circumstances with the right kinds of pressures, people make mistakes, and it's almost like a trap to think that you're above that. Like, that could never happen to me. I'm a man of this or a man of that. It's like, well, you're trying to be a man of that, but people mess up. And so it's good to kind of have these things like kind of out there in front of you, because it kind of helps you remember, like, oh yeah, perspective. I don't want to fall into this, because this list of things we're talking about, this is all going to happen if I cause one of these D's to happen. So that's, super valuable.
Yeah, dang. Well, so you start this 10th Planet School over in Stockton. You build that up, but then now's your turn to move, right? So you end up from Stockton to Nashville, which is a culture shock, right?
Oh, crazy.
Why Nashville?
Oh, well, a couple things. One is, so I quit. So my career is as a software engineer, which is a great job, especially in the 2000s and the early 2000s. AI is kind of like, all the engineers like, but it's a great career for a long time, still is. And at the end of 2018, things were going so well with 10th Planet Stockton that I put in a notice at my job, and I'd worked there for about 8 years at that point. And so I gave them, I really liked the team I worked with. There there was no hard feelings about the job, to be honest. Like, it was a good job. I had a really good title there. I had been promoted up through the company and was doing really well. And I gave them a 2-month notice, worked with the replacement, who thank God wasn't very good because it saved me in the future. And so I quit my job at the end of 2018. All of 2019, I just ran the gym and we were crushing it. I couldn't even believe it was real. I really couldn't. I thought, wow, this actually is working even better than what I thought it was going to work. And a little surprising, a little bit. Like, you start to see it like kind of work, and you're like, oh, I was almost afraid to touch anything, like in terms of like the money that was coming in, because I thought somebody's gonna say this was a mistake and they're gonna make me give it all back, or something's gonna, I don't know. And unfortunately, I was right. So a global pandemic came, which out of all these, I planned all these disaster scenarios, Riley. Like, if I quit my job and I open the gym, what happens if I can never get more than 50 students? What happens if this? Well, I had all these things, and I just thought, I think I can mitigate this. A global pandemic, not on my list. What happens if the country shuts down? Not on my list, right? Not even close. And so COVID came, and I was like, damn. So in California originally, it's like everyone's got to close for 2 weeks. There was a lot of hysteria. It's like, I don't know what's going on. I honestly didn't know at the time. I was like, I have no clue. So, and while all we were getting then were like these grainy images from China of them like putting people in the back of vans, and they're like locked in these hazmat suits. We're like, holy crap. So we closed down for a couple weeks. And I remember at the end of 2 weeks, there was no like official reopening. It was just like, yeah, don't open yet. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, I was really down. And I said, I think this is going to last for 2 years, not 2 weeks. Now, I didn't really know that it was going to last for 2 years, but I was just really down. And I'm like, I can't believe this. And I called Coach Casey, and I was talking to him about it. Like, I don't know what to do, man. I quit my job. I was like, I had a great career. I quit a really good job. And now this is all happening. And, half of my students canceled like real quick, which I understand. Like, I didn't have hard feelings about it. I felt like nobody knows what's going to happen. Everything's kind of unprecedented. How can I get mad because somebody doesn't want to keep their jiu-jitsu membership right now? So it was like, I get it, but I still didn't know what I was going to do. And Casey told me, he said, look, you can use this time to your advantage, or you could let it break you. He said the whole world is on pause, and some people are going to put their life on pause, and they're going to pick up bad habits, and they're going to come out of this worse than they went into it. But other people are going to see it as an opportunity while everything's on pause to make moves and improve their lives and become a better version of yourself. And he's like, so that's my advice to you. And I took it, and I needed to hear it, and I took it, and I was like, okay. I made a list, like, here's the things I'm going to do at my house. I cleaned out this back storage room that had been there for like 8 years. It's like, what am I doing? I built my son a skateboard ramp from scratch. I don't even know how to build. I don't know wood tools. I built that whole bitch from scratch. His friends thought it was awesome. I started swinging the kettlebell. I could swing that 88-pound kettlebell 100 times. I was just like, I'm doing everything. We're going to do it. And my wife was like, hey, I think you should call your old company up and see if they have work. And I really didn't want to do it. This was a couple months in. After been a couple months, I was like, I really don't want to do it. And I didn't want to do it because of my pride. And my pride was this, is that at my going away party, when I left the job, there was one particular coworker who I like, he's not a bad dude, but he made a disparaging remark, and I heard it. And it was one of those remarks that they don't even know you hear, but you hear, and it like blazes in your head. And somebody at the table saying, that's really cool that you have this thing that you've been side hustling for years and like it's a real thing now and you're going to do it. Like, I'm really happy for you, Tim. And my coworker goes, just give it some time. He'll be back. This never works. I've seen people do this. He'll be back. And because he said that, I did not want to go back to work. I didn't want to call that place back up. Because I'm like, he's just going to be like, I was right. you know, that's how I thought. And I told my wife, and my wife's like, who cares what this dude thinks? This guy is not paying you. He's not putting food on your table. He's not a factor in your success one bit, but you're going to let him be a factor in your failure because some bullshit he said. So I'm like, you're right. So I called my old boss up and I'm like, hey man, I don't even want to make this call. I'm just being real with you, but hey, this is where I'm at. And he goes, you don't know how happy I am that you called me right now. The guy we hired to replace you turned out to be not very good. And there's a whole backlog of work that we can't find anybody to do. And you're the one that knows how to do all of it. And we got a huge budget for contract hours. So like, when do you want to start? And so that, and I told this particular, ended up becoming the vice president at a certain point in the company. But I told him, I was like, man, I knew him very well, just on a personal level. So I could just talk to him however I wanted to talk to him. Like, respectful, but you know, we were friends. And I told him, like, dude, you really saved me during that time period because you had work for me and you let me come back to work. You could have easily just been like, no, I'll see what I can do. Made no promises and just gave it to somebody else. But you didn't. And it made it really saved my butt is what it did. Cause I didn't know this was going to, like, even though I said it'd be 2 years, I didn't know it was going to be 2 years. And I eventually started contracting about 20 hours a week. And then I reopened the gym. We blacked out the windows. We did. I'm not gonna lie. Went down there, blacked it all out, texted all my students, hey, I love you guys. No hard feelings over anything. If you don't want to train again, I totally understand it. The doors are open for you if this all ever resolves itself. If you do want to train again, I'll be at the gym on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on these nights. And if you decide to come, don't wear your gym clothes, wear street clothes. Don't congregate in the front and talk and slap it up like you used to. Just come into the gym, do all your socializing in the gym. And when you leave, go to your car and go the fuck home. You know, it's a big parking lot. So it's like, just don't park, like, just be smart. And, you know, I had a good amount of students show up. And that was like, okay, I can get something back that I've been missing. And we started training again and we kept the school alive through that, which I'm super grateful for. And then we come to find out that, like, there was a church next to us that was doing the exact same thing. And there was a nail salon on the other side. All three of us, and we just see each other like slipping in and out. And one day a cop pulled up and we were running a kids class during COVID and a cop pulled up. And we're like, oh no, this is not going to be good. And the cop, saw a parent and a kid walking in and the cop's like, hey, what's going on in there? And the parent was like, they kind of didn't want to say, you know, because they thought, great, we're going to get busted right now. And then the cop goes, I'm not going to bust you. I'm looking for a place to take my son. Like, there's nothing to do. You guys have something going on here. So ended up got a sign up out of that. I got some signups during COVID. A lot of the people that I signed up during COVID stuck with it. They're still training today. They turn out to be really great students. So then, you know, my wife goes like, hey, Stockton's rough. And, you know, my wife grew up in San Jose in the Bay Area. And we got married in 2000. We've been living in Stockton. Was there my whole life, but she moved out there when we got married and, you know, been there for 20 years. And I kind of would tell her like, yeah, someday we'll move, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, you know, everyone's doing stuff. I got the gym, we got this, we got that. And we were kind of like talking about it. And I was kind of frustrated. I was like, I didn't want to move. And I said, she's like, we should move back to the Nashville area because my wife's sister lives back here. She lived back here for about 6 or 7 years at that point. And my wife had been back to visit. And if, Nashville's a great town. I had no clue. But, there's some towns around it, like Franklin and Brentwood are extremely close within 15 minutes. And Franklin's like a dream town. It's like a Hallmark city. I had no clue these things existed at all. And she's like, I think you would really like Franklin. I want to move to Franklin. And I'm like, dude, why do you want to move to the South? Like, we're from California. I'm from Stockton. Like, what are you talking about? It sounded insane to my brain. And, we're kind of going back and forth. And then I pulled one of these moves, which is a tactic I've used in the past that worked. I said, you know what? If you really want to move, then screw it. Let's just move. I'll just tell the students we're moving. And if I can't find somebody to run it, we'll just close it down. We're just going to move. I'm tired. And in the past, that move would get her to acquiesce. And she would go like, no, I know it's a lot. It's just frustrating. Like, but this time she said, thank God. I thought you would never come to your senses. I'm going to start planning right now. And then I realized like, oh no,
man.
Like one, I told her yes. And two, it's like, she really wants this. Like she wants this, not just like she wants to go. And that was hard, man. I was really in turmoil because I, whether it's right or wrong, as a business owner, it probably hurts me. I really love the students that train. Like I like those relationships. They're some of the most valuable things that I have. And I do care about people's progress off the mats more than on the mats. I love it when people come in and they're like, yeah, I'm trying to get my degree, or I'm trying to go through the Sheriff's Academy, or I'm just trying, dude, I've been a criminal my whole life. I'm trying to go, trying to make something of myself. I'm trying to do something different. I just came out of a 15-year bad relationship, and I was an alcoholic for 2 years, and I finally stopped drinking, and for me, I think because I grew up in church and there was like that motivation to help people, I kind of had that in my heart since the time I was little, and I didn't have an outlet for it. And I found that outlet in jiu-jitsu, where it's like, okay, hey, you know what? This is not the gospel of Jesus, but this is the gospel of Elio. I could share this with you and it could help, like it could help you in your life. It can help you. And I knew that because it helped me. And I had seen it help other people. And it's not that it's not the moves are magical. It's just, this is a hard thing. It's not easy. You're going to fail a lot. You can't lie about it because everybody sees. And in gi jiu-jitsu is like really good for this. You wear your rank all class and you roll, and everybody knows where everybody stands at the end of class. There's no my secret moves. Oh, I would do this to you. There's none of that, because we get on the mat and we settle it. And you know where you stand. And being exposed to that repeatedly, I think, is really good for you as a person outside of jiu-jitsu. It really, you can take that with you. And so it was, I had a hard time. I was conflicted. I didn't want the school to die. And maybe some of it was pride, but a lot of it was just like, well, they're not going to have a place to train. Like, yeah, they'll go to other schools, but this is theirs. Like, they supported it. They came here during COVID. Many of them kept paying. They were helping. They were volunteering. They were doing everything they could do to keep it alive. And so I felt like I can't just close the door on it, even though that would have been way easier for me and way less stressful. But so I told my wife, well, there's a stipulation for moving. And it's that I want to keep the gym in Stockton and I want to open a gym in Nashville if Eddie's cool with it. And so she agreed to that. So I called Eddie and I'm like, hey man, we want to get out of California and we're going to move to Nashville. There's no 10th Planet. And, I'm going to keep Stockton going and I'm going to open it. I would like to open a 10th Planet in Nashville if you think it's the right thing to do. My plan was, if he said no, I was just going to join a gym somewhere and just train and just have a gym remotely and figure out, how to sell it or do something. And Eddie was like, hey, brother, the world's crazy right now. I would never stand in your way. Like, let's go. And I think at that point I had a good enough track record with Eddie that he knew that I was going to follow through with whatever I said I was going to do. And so he just greenlit it. And so I showed up and like, boom, we opened a gym pretty quick. And that was a different experience because I didn't know anybody in Nashville. Like literally it's just like, hey guys, I'm here. But it was a challenge to do that. To leave a school is not easy. And it's hard to put somebody in place to lead it in your absence, because you really do need somebody that has boots on the ground, that can make decisions, that can kind of be the soul of it. Because, and I don't mean this in like a conceited way, but I was the soul of that school when I was there. Like I was in every class teaching all the time, like connecting people together. And then when that leaves, you need somebody or multiple people who can kind of do that. And I had some people that kind of picked up on that, like they were like-minded. They saw that vision. They're like, yes, this is what I want. But I'd left somebody in charge initially who was a black belt, who had, he had the teaching experience and acumen to do the job, but not the work ethic. And I made another mistake.
Well, tell us about that. Business owners, I want to talk to you for a second. Do you have a retail space inside your location? If so, I want you to think about something. Your customers are buying electrolytes. You know that, right? The problem is they're not buying them from you. Well, Salty Electrolytes can help fix that with their wholesale program. They can bring these sales to you in-house so that your customers get the electrolytes they love from the company they love, you. All you have to do is head over to goearnyoursalt.com and scroll to the bottom of the page and click Apply for Wholesale. Do it now before you forget. I know your type, I'm one of you. Once again, that's goearnyoursalt.com. The link is at the bottom of the homepage. There will also be a link in the description on this video. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
So the mistake I made is I thought, well, I see potential in this person. And if I set this person up to succeed, then they can succeed and they'll grow and they'll get better. And then it will pay dividends in the future. This was like, I'm going to invest in this person. And so I offered him a full-time teaching gig. I paid him pretty well for being a full-time jiu-jitsu instructor, considering that this dude wasn't, he had been laid off. He was driving a forklift. He look, not disparaging anything. I'm just saying he didn't have this other crazy career prospect going on. He was literally just like looking for work, And so he was pretty motivated in the beginning. And, I was paying him to do the job. It's just, he wasn't doing the job. And it was difficult. And I set up a structure for him to make a lot more money if the gym grew. So as the gym grew, it would directly benefit him and myself, right? Because I mean, I'm a capitalist. I'm not trying to give it away, So he ran it, and none of my students said much to me in the beginning. It's like, hey, it's good. But then like I had a few people cancel. They're like, I don't like this guy. But in the beginning, I just thought, hey, I knew there would be a fall. Anytime the leadership kind of changes, there's going to be a fallout. That's just, you're not going to keep everyone. You're not going to make everyone happy. And some people you think are riding with you are not riding with you, because when you make a switch, they bail. And other people are just looking for the right moment to bail. They already want to bail for other reasons, and they just don't have the heart to do it. But then you give them an opportunity like, hey, we're moving. Oh, I'm out. Hey, you know what? I got it. So, there was definitely a drop off, but I couldn't get through to this particular individual. And the other coaches were basically doing all the work except for the person that was really getting paid. And so, I had to let him go, and it was rough because they didn't take it well. But again, I kind of give people enough rope to hang themselves if that's what they're going to do. Because I feel like this, look, people make mistakes. People need experience. The only way you get it sometimes is by kind of messing up here and there. And that's okay. You know, you learn from it, you grow. As long as we're honest and we're trying to move in the right direction, we could work with that. But it became clear, like, this dude's not working in the right direction at all, which sucks, man, because then it made me question, like, do I have a lack of judgment? Like, am I investing in the wrong kinds of people? Right? Like, what is it that and in this situation, it was more of like I was in a pinch and this was the best person for the job. And also, you know, when you leave a gym, there's a lot of wolves that come around who are like, hey, let me see what I can do. And I needed a wolf. I needed my own wolf in the gym. The problem is that the wolf will keep the other wolves away, but then he'll prey on all the students in the meantime. And that's kind of what was taking place. And so I had to make a switch. And that was hard, but it was easy because as soon as the switch was done, things got much better. The right people that were really doing the work got put in place, and it improved pretty drastically. So, you know, and one of the things we talked about is, like, it's a challenge to run a business from a distance. Like I still struggle with that, to be honest with you. And it's that being in constant communication, understanding when you need to make a decision and when you need to back off and let them make the decision is tricky. And training a person to kind of get in the driver's seat and take over. If you're just trying to bail and you just want money, then yeah, you can just sell your gym to anybody and just walk away. But if you're trying to, like, put it in good hands with somebody that can grow it and nurture it, and it could be valuable to them in the future, then that takes time to build those people up and work with them. So I try to approach it that way. I feel like I'm doing an okay job now, but it's still a lot. I didn't think I was going to own 2 gyms, Riley. That was not in my business plan.
Tim, you've mentioned Coach Casey? Is that his name? A
Casey
few
Halstead,
times, right? In a mentor role in your life, and I want you to talk about the value he's brought to you from that perspective.
Yeah, you know, when I was going to college, and I went to Sacramento State, and one of the things, and I don't know if they still talk about this in school, it's been a long time, but one of the things they talked about a lot was, like, you need to find good mentors. And I don't know why, when I was like 12 or 13, I was at my grandparents' house and my uncle had this Tony Robbins book. You know, Tony Robbins, the motivational guy. It was his first, like, big paperback, Unlimited Power. And I had never been exposed to these concepts before. And I remember flipping through the book and I was super intrigued by it. So I stole the book from my uncle. I'm like, I'm just going to take this home with me. And I took it home with me and I read it. And there was some good things that actually stuck with me my whole life. But one of the things was you need to look for people that are doing what you want to do, or the things you think you want to do. And you need to build relationships with those people and understand and use those people as models. And Casey was one of those people. And not crazy, but the interesting thing about Casey is that, you know, not everybody likes Casey. And I don't think Casey cares if I say that. Like, Casey can be very direct and very much like, hey, but for me, I don't care, because I feel like this guy's looking out for me. Like, he might be direct, but sometimes you need it. You need it direct. And Casey was somebody who at one time, and I might have my numbers like one unit off, I think he had 9 or 10 gyms at one time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's like, you know, some really good, probably some not so great, right? And then he moved to Vegas way ahead of the wave in terms of jiu-jitsu, which turned out to be a very brilliant move and opened up. There's 2 10th Planets out there. They got one in Henderson, which is the main one, and they have another one that's in the city of Las Vegas. It used to be downtown, but I think they moved it a little bit. But I would just call Casey and ask him questions about anything that I felt like I couldn't make a decision about, or I needed like better input on. I would just throw it out to him. And oftentimes, you know, I would just do whatever he said. And sometimes I didn't because it wasn't like a super serious thing. But there was a couple times when he was like, hey, I'm expecting you to do this because I'm accountable to Eddie for you. I called Eddie and talked to him. So you better do this. And I take that stuff very seriously. Like because if you don't, then what do you have? You know, if somebody sticks their neck out for you or they make a call for you and that bolsters your reputation with somebody else and they're kind of like taking a piece of their reputation and going like, I'm going to co-sign for you on this. So you can't let those people down. You have to, whether you feel like it or not, you have to abide by what they've done for you. And that's not always comfortable or easy to do. And I'm not a super confrontational person. I have a hard time telling people like, take off, dude. But you know, I've had to get a lot better at that over time. But Casey's been really helpful in that sense. When it came to like making difficult decisions, like when my business partner was doing some really janky stuff, you know, I just as a sounding board, like, hey, am I out of my mind here? Like, is this the kind of thing you would break up a business for? Like, what should I be doing? To just like some like handling disputes between students. I've had a couple situations where I had students, you know, say something happened that didn't happen. You know, act like they're going to make a big stink about things. They're like, dude, you're making things up because I have the video of what happened and that did not happen. You know, just advice like that. He's been super helpful. And the thing that a mentor does oftentimes is like a mentor generally has more experience than you in the thing you're trying to do. And they've also kind of walked through some of those paths and have made the mistakes. And a good mentor can get their point across to you in a way that you can understand without having to go make the damn mistake. Because that's really the most expensive way to learn. The best way to learn is by observance. I watch Riley. Riley falls down and bumps his head. I don't walk the way Riley walked because I don't want to fall down and bump my head. That's the cheapest way to learn. It's great, free, no harm on me. Riley got a head bump. I'm good. But most of us are like, I won't bump my head if I walk down there. And then you got to bump your head too. And then you're like, damn, you'll bump your head if you walk through there, right? That's what a good mentor can do. They can not just tell you like, hey, you're going to bump your head. They'll tell you how they bumped their head, how they didn't think they were going to bump their head, how somebody had told them they were going to bump their head and they didn't believe it. And then they'll show you exactly how you're going to bump your head. And that can help you avoid a lot of pitfalls. So I really do appreciate his friendship in that. And he's helped a lot. There's a lot of people I know in jiu-jitsu that are not necessarily like close friends that I've just met. And they have the same story about Casey. They're like, Casey saved my life, dude. If it wasn't for Casey, I wouldn't be doing any of this right now. So he's a very, very good dude. I'm really grateful for him.
I love to hear you say that, man, because you don't meet people often enough, I feel, that can just give you the hard truth, right? Just tell you straight up how it is. And like you said, he comes across maybe as a little brash, a little blunt. But God, that's refreshing sometimes when you're full of a bunch of people who want to sugarcoat everything and dance around it's like, get to the point, man. Just tell me the truth. Just think and tell me the truth.
Yeah. The challenge we have in culture today is that there's a lot of people that kind of hide behind, like, I tell it like it is, right? I'm up front. I'll just tell you what I think. And that's okay. But oftentimes they're not telling you anything helpful. They're just telling you how they're feeling and what they're thinking. And I'm straight up. And it's like, that's okay. But that's kind of just you dumping all your emotional garbage out and just throwing it out. We need more people that will tell you the truth with the motivation that hard truth will help you, not with the motivation of, I'm going to get this out because you're going to know exactly where I stand. That's not that beneficial. And oftentimes that message is lost. And then the other half of us are like, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't know how to say this to this person. I don't think he's going to listen. Right. So that's like another challenge that most people have that challenge. They just want to go along to get along. Don't want to rock the boat. Don't want to, if it's somebody they really care about, they might say something, but they'll just let you walk off the side of the cliff because they don't want to hurt your feelings, which is insane.
Dude, that's, I mean,
right?
what a great way to say that, man. They'll let you walk off the side of a cliff because, yeah, I feel like that's something that I find a little too often in church, right? Is everyone wants to be so nice. They'll let you do the dumbest stuff and not say a word because they just want to be nice. And it's like, no, man, be mean to me a little bit. Tell me the truth.
Yeah. They don't want to be a troublemaker, or they don't want to be like cast as somebody who like, oh God, that guy's a jerk. He's always saying stuff. And I mean, some people they are always saying stuff, but
yeah, some people are jerks, right?
Yeah, they are. But if a person is doing the things you want to do, and when you don't see moral and ethical, tears in the fabric of their life, like people make mistakes, it happens, like nobody's above that, but that's not their way of life. That's not their pattern of life. And that person's doing what you want to do. If they tell you something, you should probably listen. And that's not easy. If somebody tells you, look, guys tell me things all the time that don't have a job, have never had a job, have very little anything other than staying home and playing video games and coming to class once every 3 months. When those guys tell me, you know what you need to do, it just goes in one ear and goes out the other. Cause I'm like, yeah, sorry, dog. I'm not taking your advice, but someone like Casey does. And I shut up and listen.
That's so beautiful, man. That's so beautiful. In this, from your business owner perspective, switch gears here a little bit, but, you talked about this coach you had that you had to let go because he was just not really doing his job. How does that, have you ever had to do that with a client? Like in jiu-jitsu, we call them students, right? But this is your customer base is what it is. And have you ever had to fire a customer?
Yeah, I've had to fire a few. It gets easier. So, I don't have a ton of gym rules when it comes to the gym. I have a couple of rules, and I don't even think they're outlandish. Like, my rules are shared burden of safety. So that means whoever you're rolling with, you got to be looking out for their safety, and they got to be looking out for yours. The minute either partner decides I want to win more than I want to protect my partner's safety, then their partner by default now has to own 100% of the safety, right? Of that. And then you're no longer doing jiu-jitsu with that person. You're trying to keep them from injuring you, injuring themselves, or injuring someone else. And that's not fun. And when you're that person, you don't realize it, but then people don't want to roll with you. They avoid you. They skip you. You end up sitting out a lot of rounds on the side because when the timer goes off and everybody groups up, you're looking and nobody's looking at you because you don't understand there's a shared burden. Like, it's not just about winning. It's about getting better, and winning is great, but it's also about like these moves are really dangerous and we kind of like gloss over it. We do it so much. Like, you could really hurt somebody with these moves, and it happens all the time. Like, really hurt somebody. And so if someone's not abiding by that, it gets real difficult to work with them, right? So that's one of my things. I preach a lot, and I will slow people down. I will tell people they got to relax. I'm very, very aware of people getting heated on the mats and getting upset at each other. I'm not for that. I try to completely take out the it's me versus you. And I try to make it's the set of techniques I'm choosing to use against a set of techniques you're choosing to use. It's not my manhood and my toughness against your manhood and toughness, because that's going to lead to a fight. It's going to escalate, and it's going to lead to a fight, especially amongst men. That's just how guys are. I try to tell my wife. My wife always goes like, did you ask, you saw Mike today. Did you ask him about this? Did you ask him how his fiance's daughters? Did you ask about, and I'm like, no. I didn't, Mike. We talked about jiu-jitsu. We hung out. Well, you didn't ask him about what happened that time when him and his girl got in a fight. I'm like, no. She's like, how come? And I said, well, because guys are like this. If we get in each other's business too much, we end up physically fighting each other, and we could die. We don't want to do that. So we kind of like give each other the girls, like, I don't, someone might say I'm a boomer and I'm sexist, but women in general are like, they kind of get in each other's business a little bit. You know what I mean? And guys are just like a little more, they step back a little bit. But I don't know why I said all that. I was going somewhere with it, Riley, but yeah. Oh, firing customers. So rules. So the other gym rule I have is about attire, and it's guys have to wear shorts over their spats. There's no spats only running around. I don't want to see that. And it's hard enough for the girls to come and train jiu-jitsu. They don't want to see that either. Just put some shorts on. Right?
Yeah, it's awkward enough just because it's physically close, right? Let alone you add that to it. Yeah.
And these guys that try to wear these little tight little, like, they look like underwear. And they're trying to, it's like, no, put some shorts on. I don't want to train with you like this. I don't care. I don't want to train with you. And for the women, it's, hey, look, no booty shorts in class. Like, it have leggings on. Don't have some tiny little shorts on and some tiny little top. Like, that's not what we're doing. We're not here for that. We're here for grappling. We're here to learn jiu-jitsu. It's dirty. It's grimy. It's very challenging. It's very difficult. Just because I'm nice doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's still hard. I'm just trying to take out all the other bullshit that I see that messes up gym culture terribly. And that's and look, biology is biology. Nature is nature. Like my lead in Stockton is a female who's trained me for a long time. And she met her fiance in jiu-jitsu, but it was an organic, real relationship. It wasn't like, hey, I'm dating every guy in the gym. I have had that. I have had situations like that where now dudes are mad at each other, or now girls are mad at each other. And it's like, the gym is not like your little side tender. Like, take that out of here. I don't want that. It's not your place for political discourse, religious discussions, any of that. You're going to ruin it if you do that. You're going to literally ruin the purpose of this space. This space is for grappling. It's about jiu-jitsu. It's about people coming together, putting hard work in, learning where they're failing and moving forward, helping each other. Look, we can have philosophical differences. We could have political differences. We could have religious differences. But when we get on the mat, none of that matters. It doesn't. You could believe all the right things, but if you can't do jiu-jitsu, I'm going to whoop your ass. And that's just, but that's what we're doing. We're doing that. So I really try to protect the space. Now, having said that, I have had one situation where a particular family came in and they seemed like they were okay. And I had a little bit of like, because the father of the family had called me and said, hey, we're going to be moving out to your area, or we're out in your area, and blah, blah, blah. We train at these other gyms, and my daughter's had all these bad experiences, all these pervert instructors. Everyone's trying to get in their DMs, do this and do that, blah, blah. Okay. Said, hey, man, that's not the kind of ship I'm running. I can't I have had male students send female students DMs. Hey, you want to go out to lunch tomorrow? I don't know they're doing it. I don't like it. I don't particularly like it. But I also realize, like, I'm not the boss of these people. Like, they have their own life, and I don't want to be the boss of them. I don't want to be making rules and responsible for everybody's life. That's your job. You be responsible for your life. Let me be responsible for mine. So it's like, okay, they started training, and, sometimes actions don't line up with what you're told. You're told, like, hey, they don't want any attention. They don't want to have any interact. They just want to, like, but it's like, that's not the behavior I'm seeing, but that's whatever, And there was a couple of, violations of the dress code. I said, hey, listen, it's not personal. It's just, I'm trying to keep it a certain way. I don't have that many rules. I'm not trying to come down hard on you, but I'd really appreciate it if you could make an effort to, like, wear something different. Oh yeah. It's just, I don't have that much, but yeah. And then it kept happening. So it's like, hey, we got to talk. Like, can we have a talk about this? And in the course of the talk, what should have taken 5 minutes to just be like, hey, I really need you to do this. Like, it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. It took, I'm 40 minutes deep into this conversation. And this dad that I'm talking to, who has an adult daughter, she's an adult in her 20s, been married, like not a kid, not a little kid. We're talking about a full grown ass adult. You're not allowed to address my daughter. If you have anything, you have to come through me, because that's the way my family handles our communication. And I was like, well, she's a grown woman and she's my student and she's violating the dress code. So I'm not going to come to you. I'm going to go tell her directly. And I was nice about it. And it was like, oh, you're an abusive instructor. You're a narcissist. All the big keywords that get thrown. You're gaslighting. You're doing this. You're doing that. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I'm super pissed off because I had a visitor that I was really looking forward to seeing in class. But instead of being in class, I had to have one of my coaches run the class because I'm in the side room having this stupid conversation with this person. And after like 40 minutes, I was like, duh, the light bulb went off. And I just said, you know what? I don't think this is the right gym for you, man. Like, this is not it. And it's okay. I don't want to have hard feelings towards you, but sometimes things just don't work out. It's not a problem. I'm going to and it was 5 people in the family. It was a significant chunk of change. I want to refund you guys money for this month, even though it was near the end of the month. Just like, I just wanted to walk away. You guys, best of luck to you. I'm not going to tell anybody what happened. And I didn't. Maybe this is my problem. I never tell people like, this guy did this and that guy did that, because I just think it's like, it's wasted energy and effort. Like, we're moving forward. We're not looking back. We're going forward. He got really upset because I think he thought he was going to convince me to like, let them do what they want and be on the team. And I was just not going to do it. And so they left and they hung out outside, which I didn't even know because I went back into class. And then they proceeded to tell every person who left the gym, oh, Coach Tim went crazy and kicked us out of the gym and did this and that. And like, this person sent a big old giant text message this long to Eddie Bravo. So I get a call from Eddie, which Eddie doesn't call me very much. And so when I see the phone, I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is. Like, Eddie's calling me. And it's like, hey, do you know this guy? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I need you to look at these messages and like, tell me what this is about. And I get these texts and it's worded like this daughter is 8 years old and I'm just picking at her. Every class I can get, every mean thing I can do, all this stuff. And I'm like, Eddie, brother, this is not true. This is what happened. So Eddie's like, hey, I want you to communicate what you just told me to him, which I had already done, but I'm like, perfect, I will. So I communicated it. And then that was it. I never saw him again. He talked mad trash about me. I had like 7 or 8 students quit because they believed it, right? And, even the students that didn't quit, a couple of them were like, hey, what happened? And at that point, I told a couple people some of the details. Like, this is what happened. It's not what he's saying, but I don't want to turn our whole gym. Like, I don't want to give this drama all this attention. It's going to suck the energy out of what we're doing. And so this is what happened. And it was a little rough. Like, it's kind of a setback at that point because you lost 7 or 8 people in a shot. Like, the morale kind of goes down. You start seeing these people show up at other gyms. This particular family, this dude ended up revealing himself as a total crazy person anyway. It all came out in the wash anyway. But those students that I left never came back. They never said like, hey, I had it wrong. So that's just the part you realize that's blood on your hands. There's nothing you could do. You gotta chop it. Because if you don't, eventually, instead of 7 or 8, you're going to lose 17 or 18 because they're going to screw up the culture in your gym.
Yeah.
So I've had to fire students for that. I had to fire a dude who came to me, signed up, seemed cool, did not know him. Again, I've only been out here for 4 years. There's a lot of people I don't know. And been training with us for a few months. And then another student goes, oh, this guy's training with us? Dude, I'm not telling you what to do, but this guy hurt me really bad in the past, being crazy on the mats, and he has a reputation for hurting people. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, I wish you would have told me immediately, but hey, it's not your fault he's hurting people. So he's like, you should call this other school. He used to train there. He got kicked out. So I called this other school and I'm like, hey, this guy used to train there. Yeah, he went off on a 15-year-old, like hurt him, jacked him up, and then he like was going way too hard training with one of the girls and hurt her. Something like that. So he's training in my gym. I'm keeping a close eye on him. And I'm like, hey, be cool. Shared burden of safety, right? And I trained. And this guy, he never like integrates well, doesn't talk much, doesn't build relationships. He ends up hurting one of my good students. And it's kind of a freak thing. The injury is a freak thing. It really is. I take that video. I send it out to I sent it out to Brandon McCaffrin. I sent it to a good doctor friend of mine out here who's also a black belt in Jiu Jitsu. I sent it out to several people. Said, watch this video. This is the injury that happened. Do you think anything was like off? I didn't want to like cloud their judgment. I just wanted to know like, what do you think? And they're all like, I've never seen that before. That's wild that person got this particular injury from that particular position. And so I'm like, this could be an anomaly. It could be. So I tell the guy, listen, I've reviewed it. I've had people review it. It looks like this was just like a freak thing. Sometimes you zig and somebody zags and shit happens. But having said that, you have a very bad track record of injuring people. So that means from here on out, you can't injure anybody for anything, whether it's your fault or not. You can't do it, or I'm going to have to cut you loose, dude. Like, I don't want to do that, but you can't do it. So you're going to have to, in some positions, you're going to have to give up positions. In some spots, if you're fighting for something and you feel like for now, until you get some good time under your belt without sending anyone to the hospital, you're going to have to like choke it back even more. Yeah, okay. On okay behavior. Man, 6 months later, going for a takedown, can't get it, steps across, tries to hit some crazy throw, ends up fracturing the guy's leg that he's training with. And the guy's in pain. He's on the ground. He's reacting like, you're like, oh shit. It's like the whole class stops kind of injury, right? And the dude that hurt him is not even attending to him. He's just like sitting off over. He just walks off over on the side, gets water. He's toweling off. And we're like,
broke a guy's leg, and now he's wanting to.
Yeah. Well, It gets worse.
Hey, has all that talk about salty electrolytes made you wonder what all the fuss is about? Have you thought that maybe one day you'd like to try that stuff? Well, today's your lucky day because Salty Electrolytes is offering free samples to listeners of this podcast who have not yet tried this amazing electrolyte supplement. All you have to do is head on over to goearnyoursalt.com and use the code PODSAMPLE at checkout to receive your free sample kit. There will also be a link in the description of this podcast. And now, let's get back to the show.
So I'm like, okay, so we're trying to figure out like, what do we got to do? Who do we got to call? And this student's like flipping out, and we get him calm and we're working with them. And then, I tell after a few minutes, I'm like, hey, you guys just go back to class. Like he doesn't need 30 people standing around him the whole time, So they go back to class. Now the guy that injures him just goes back to class, starts rolling with somebody else. Never checks on him, doesn't offer to help him get his gear, doesn't offer him to help him downstairs for his ride, never calls him one time to check on him, never sends a message, never reaches out to anybody. So I reached out to the student that got hurt. I was in communication with him a lot. And I'm like, hey, did so-and-so ever reach out to you? He was like, no. So then I called the previous student that got injured in the freak accident. And I'm like, hey, when this guy did this to you and you had to have surgery, did he ever reach out to you? Not a word. Never said a thing. Didn't even seem like he cared. So I told the guy like, hey man, I told you couldn't have any accidents and you did. So this is not the right gym for you. Giving you your money back for this month. You got to find another gym to train at. And furthermore, you didn't ask me for my advice, but I'm going to give it to you. In the future, you need to build better relationships with the people you train with So if you do have an incident like this, you have some goodwill built up with these people, and they don't immediately assume you're a jerk and you hurt them on purpose, because you came to our gym. You rarely talk to anybody. You rarely did anything. You don't got to hang out. They don't got to be your best friends. But when you're on the mat, you could say hello. You can introduce yourself. You can chat. And this guy's response was, you know what? I didn't really like your gym that much anyway. I didn't know it was a requirement to be best friends with the other students in order to be part of your gym, which is not what I said. And he's like, and you have too many clicks at your gym anyway, so no big deal. So I was like, man, this guy is going to have problems. This is going to happen at every gym he goes to. So it's tricky. Sometimes you got to let people go, man. Gym culture is very fragile. And if you mess it up, you can really mess your business up. And I try to be really, really good about that. So yeah, you got to let people go, man. You got to take out the trash sometimes.
I think that's an interesting subject, man, because the term is gym cancer, right? If you let a gym cancer stick around, it's a problem. But that's any business, man. I have I don't know if you know this, but I have another company that's a mobile oil change that I own, and I have 4 written rules in that company that my employees know that if a customer violates one of those 4 rules more than once, they don't get to be our customer anymore. We cut them loose. And I think every business needs that, man. I think that's part of just being wise. Dude, you've dropped some just wisdom bombs here, man. I'm loving this. I've got some lighter questions if you don't mind switching gears real quick. And we'll go into that,
anything you want, man. I'm down to talk about anything.
Awesome, man. Well, Tim, this is called the Go Earn Your Salt podcast. And when you hear the term go earn your salt, what does that mean to you?
It means a couple of things. One is I love salt electrolytes. Got to give you a big ups for that. Big props. The lime flavor is my absolute favorite. And I did take one of those. I raw dogged it one time on the air. I think for CJI, I remember I just downed that thing. Oh, and I was like, wow, I didn't know it was going to be like that strong raw. But I'm like, I'm not going to cough. I'm going to eat it because I'm like, salt electrolytes. That was so funny, man. That was fun. But go earn your salt to me means like you got to pull your weight. You have to earn your keep. You have to show your worth. And if you're part of a team, you got to add value. And maybe you can't add value in the beginning. You don't know exactly what to do. Then do easy stuff. Do nice stuff. Hey, man, I'll clean the mats. Hey, dude, let me help you with this. Oh, let me set that table up. Oh, just find a way to be helpful. Now, some people view it as a pure business relationship. I'm a customer. You're a business. When I come here, I pay you for jiu-jitsu. I'm not cleaning your mats. I'm not taking out your garbage. I'm not doing this. And that's okay. I don't expect you to do it. But you're learning a martial art. And if you're going to be a martial artist, then you have to kind of be part of that team. That's not me just saying you got to take out garbage. It's me saying, if you really want this to grow, you have to add value. And right now, you don't know anything about jiu-jitsu. So there's no value. You're not going to come in here and add value. You're not going to show me a new wrinkle on the omoplata that's going to change anything. But you got 2 legs and 2 arms, and like, hey, on Saturday, we're going to move these mats. You show up and help. That'd be tremendous. Like stuff like that. That's earning your salt in one way. And also just being consistent. Like one thing I found about the jiu-jitsu crowd, there's a lot of tough guys. And, when I started, a lot of those guys in that room, they were not welcoming. They were not customer friendly. They were not like, oh, we're so glad you're here. They were more kind of like, we're going to see if you're going to stick this out. Like, we're not changing anything we do for you. In fact, we might even be a little harder on the days you're here because we want you to prove that you actually belong with us. And in that time, jiu-jitsu was like still more secretive. It was harder to find. There's less people training. There's no Instagram, no Craig Jones, no Gordon Ryan, no UFC BJJ. Like it was way harder to find. And, you wanted to be accepted by a team. You wanted to be on the team. So it was a lot harder then. And I think it's important for people to show up and put the consistent work in. And even those guys in the beginning that don't give you much respect and they don't spend much time with you and they kind of look at you, you know, with their wrinkled face, you could be really crappy at jiu-jitsu and still not good, but if you keep showing up, they will respect you because they realize everyone knows how hard it is to show up and put the work in and get smashed. Like everybody knows how hard that is. And if you go through that, you will get respect. So that's for me, it's specifically when I think about jiu-jitsu, I that's what I think about when I hear go earn your salt.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Tim, what's your favorite pastime? Outside of jiu-jitsu, what's your favorite pastime?
I would say, you know, my favorite pastime, a couple. If we're talking sports, just because you said pastime, I really loved baseball growing up. I was a big baseball fan, and you know, I watched the Giants win the World Series 3 times in the 2010s, and we were diehard Giants fans. And then after that, you know, I was kind of like, I'm not going to watch sports, and I kind of retired from it. But this year, I kind of got more back into it a little bit, and I'm kind of rediscovering like the joy of like watching baseball, how much I did appreciate it and liked it because I played it a lot growing up. And baseball is one of those games where if you played it, you know, you're more likely to watch it because you kind of understand the drama of the game and how it's kind of unfolding. But it can be really boring for people to watch baseball. It's like, what is this? This is boring. But I really do love baseball. The other thing I really, really love to do outside of jiu-jitsu is I like to cook quite a bit. I'm not super great at it, but I do really enjoy cooking. There's something, you know, art comes in a lot of different forms. So like if, you know, Leonardo da Vinci paints the Mona Lisa, right? And it's awesome. People want to go see it and they want to stand in front of it and they're in awe of it. Now, you could paint the Mona Lisa, you could paint a replica, and it could be exact. And if you hang it up on your wall and people walk by and they see Riley written on it instead of Leah, they're not going to look at it in awe like they look at the Mona Lisa. They're just going to be like, oh, you copied somebody else's thing. Now, if you pull out a guitar and you play some, you know, Dave Mustaine Megadeth riff, people are going to go like, oh my God, because it's a performance. They're watching you do it as you do. It's like, wow, that's amazing. So that's kind of art that's like a little more consumable. People like they're okay with copying it. Food is like the ultimate one where everyone's okay with copying it. Like you could steal any recipe and they don't go, well, Wolfgang Puck didn't make this. You could steal his recipe, and if it tastes good, when they eat it, they're gonna go like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing I ever ate. This is so good. Oh man, that steak, that chicken, that was so good." They never go like, "You copied that. I saw Gordon Ramsay made that. You copied his recipe." Food's not like that, and I really like that about food. I think it's kind of neat, and it sustains your life on a very fundamental level. Right? Like you need to eat. So you're taking this in, but it's also like a flavor profile. I'm kind of fascinated. Like you go eat something, you're like, man, that tastes so good. Then I think, what do I need to do at home to like replicate that taste? Like and some things I can't, I'm like, I have no clue. I don't know. I'm not trained. No concept, man. And then other things I'm like, oh, I know how to do that. I figured that one out. I know how to do that one. And I'll look stuff up and try things. I'm not like super awesome, and I don't want to be. So cooking is one thing I've purposely not bitten down on. Like I cook, I do most of the cooking at home. I super enjoy it. I like to make meals, but I don't want to be like I'm studying cooking because I think I might ruin it if I do that. I think I might turn into like, oh no, I got to do this and I gotta, and then it's like, I don't want to take the joy out of it because I know how I am. So that's one of my favorite other things to do.
Oh,
I really like that. Yeah.
What's something quirky about you that people don't know?
Quirky. Well, I kind of shared that I was homeschooled. That was odd. I I do all this podcast stuff, totally just made it up on the fly. Like literally just started doing it. I had no business doing it at all. It was just an idea that I ran with, and I just happened to be one of the people doing it. And I was willing to keep doing it. Quirky. Let's see. I'm kind of musically inclined. I could play the piano. I can play the drums. I'm pretty artistic. I can draw pretty well. I think I have a creative side that most people, when they see me. So I think this is what I've been told. I tend to look much more serious and more like than I actually am in real life. Like I have had several people tell me, when I met you or like saw you and like kind of like, I just thought like you were quiet and you're serious and you don't like, and then now that I know you, you're fucking nuts and you're a crazy person, you know, like, and it's so much fun. I think that's kind of something that people discover about me after they get to know me. You know, I'm a little bit guarded and reserved around people I don't know very well. But once I, warm up, I'm pretty out there.
You know, it's funny you say that because I never got that impression about you that I always, and maybe it's because I listened to your podcast prior, right? To where I'd hear you cutting up on there and you're just being silly and cracking jokes all the time. And it was, I didn't ever see the serious side of you. So that is something I wouldn't have.
It is funny, right? Yeah.
Wouldn't have thought,
I think like people I work professionally with, even like some of the parents whose kids wrestled with my son when his first couple years of wrestling meets, I would go and like, I wouldn't even hardly talk to anybody. I don't know why. My wife is a social butterfly. My wife she knows everybody, everywhere, everything all the time. She loves to talk to people. She loves to socialize. She loves going out. And I'm kind of like, I kind of like it, but I'd rather like hang out with two people and have a really great conversation than like talk to 20 people in a big room. But some of those parents, they're like, Tim, like we had no idea you were fun to hang out with. And then it kind of bums me out. I'm like, oh, everyone thinks I'm like a killjoy.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Tim, what would be some advice you would give your younger self?
To only eat your own shit sandwiches. Don't eat anybody else's. You have to eat yours. You got to eat it every day because they're going to stack up and you got to eat them anyway, but don't eat other people's. And that was a problem that I had. I think I still carry people's emotional baggage a little bit, especially the people that I care about a lot. I tend to try to process their feelings, which is kind of lame, but I think I do it from a place of concern for people. And I've come to realize over time that that's not the way that I can help these people. Like that I can do better by not doing that and still help, right? Use my energy and my resources to help in a more constructive way. And I think it's just a default. Now, some people need to do that. Some people need to spend time thinking about the way other people feel. And it's like really positive and valuable for them because they're maniacs, but that I've come to kind of figure out over time, like, I do care about people. I really try to come out with win-wins for people. And I do like to see people grow. I really love having somebody come up to me and go like, hey, I want to be a coach. And then, what I tell people, oh, you want to be a coach? Start coaching. Like start coaching, like come to class and like start helping. Show up. When should I, that's like, they want me to give them a schedule and times. It's like, just show up when you're here. Or they'll go like, hey, I want to do videography. Like, would you care? Yeah, man, come with your camera. Next class, do videography. Like do it. Yeah. That's what just do it. And then the people that do it, then I like to try to help those people and push them in the right direction. Like I really do have a heart to help, but I got to be better at not taking on their baggage. I could have did a much better job when I was younger. I had a hard time having difficult conversations with people when I was younger. I felt like I would put things off until it was like, oh, I have to do this. Like it's overflowing. And then there would be too much emotion or anger or angst in the communication. And it wasn't an emotionally intelligent way to handle the conversation. And what happens, you end up like severing relationships or damaging them in a way that they can't be fixed. And then you're like processing that. And I'm like, oh, should I reach out to this person? Maybe I should just blah, blah, blah. What should I do? What should I do? And it's like, no, dude, you should not do any of that in the first place, and like take a step back and think about what the right way is to handle this. And when you're thinking about what somebody else is feeling, it's helpful if you're thinking about that in terms of how am I going to communicate something to this person that could help them. So let me put myself in their mindset and think, how would I feel? Like, how would I want to hear this message? Right? That's beneficial. But if it's just like, oh man, I feel so bad. This guy's suffering. He's suffering. Oh man, he's feeling bad. Like, oh God, that sucks so bad. And you're like, you're wearing it. That's not helpful. That doesn't help that person. That person has no less of a burden now because you're processing it in parallel with this person who doesn't even know you're doing that. It's all like work for nothing, you know? So that would be probably my main advice to my former self. I could have saved a lot of heartache.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. You know, sometimes we just want to be nice, and so we get all, you know, worried about how the other person feels. But yeah, when you have to strategize a way to communicate a thought that's going to be beneficial to them, but it's going to sting when you say it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a challenge, but you have to do it, man. Sometimes you're the messenger.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that comes with the role of being like, I want to own this gym or I want to have this business, and like, okay, you're the boss. Now you got to do boss stuff. And boss stuff leadership is stuff, like, right? Yeah, people think boss stuff is like making the money, doing the flex, you know, like, yeah, look at me, number one. It's not. That's not boss stuff. Boss stuff is like having the really hard conversation with somebody that you care about, or cutting somebody loose, or deciding, you know, this thing that you pursued that maybe you spent a bunch of money on, this project is not going to succeed and it was a mistake and you got to own it. Or somebody that's working for you has royally messed up and you have to own it, because at the end of the day, it's your name's on the piece of paper, not theirs. You know, so that's boss stuff, which that's hard, dude. Like, that's rough.
Yeah, that's boss stuff, man. If you think it's easy, go try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, what's an item on your bucket list?
Bucket list. So there's a couple things I want to do. I really want to travel and check out some of the ancient sites that I've seen so much about on television. I would really like to go to Machu Picchu. That's something that has been kind of on my list of things to do. I know it's pretty hard to get to, and it's not like super fun resort traveling, but it is something I would definitely like to check out someday. Other bucket list things. One of the things and my wife and I have talked about this, I would really like to move to another country for like 6 months, 9 months, and just go live somewhere. Like, I'm really looking at Italy because I love Italy and I love Italians, and it's just it's like being in Italy is like being in a Wes Anderson movie. It's like you've literally stepped out of real life and you're like in a movie. But one of my bucket list things there is to find somebody there who wants to start a 10th Planet gym and work out some kind of trade where I can go out there and live out there for 6 months, and my wife can go with me, and I could help this person start a gym and live in another country for a while and just kind of have that experience and see what it's about, and like kind of get my feet wet and help somebody at the same time who can also help me. So that's the other thing kind of on my bucket list that I'm looking at in my 50s. And I don't know why I do. Maybe because I just, you know, nobody taught me. I just did it. But I always looked at my life in decades. So it was like 20 to 30. My goal was like, I got to finish college. You know, my wife and I have known each other since we were kids. We started dating when we were teenagers. and we dated all through college. We lived in different towns, and, we finished school, but, we were in our early 20s. But my goal, like in my 20s, was finish school, get married, start a career, like get a house. Those were my big, like, I got to try to get these things in. These are my goals. Like, I really would like to do this. And then somewhere in that time, I picked up jiu-jitsu towards the end of it. And then in my 30s, I was like, man, I would really like to like at least finish the black belt at some point. And at a certain point in there, I was like, I want to open up a school. And so there were some things that like kind of made sense to me. I got an advanced security certification in technology. There was like some big things that I wanted to do, and I did those. And in my 40s, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, to be honest with you, because I'm like, I'm going to run this school and I'm going to quit my job. And I did that, but then it kind of like got choked back. And so then I've been like, hey, I just got to, once we set our sights on Nashville, everything became, how do I get my family and all my stuff from Stockton to Nashville? And my wife was a teacher for 20 years. She quit her job. She decided she didn't want to teach anymore after when we moved out here. She's like, I don't want to go into teaching. I want to do something different. So she changed her career. She went back into the business world. And when we moved, she didn't have a job. And when we moved, I was contracting, and then the company I contracted with offered me a full-time position. I'm like, I got to take it because I don't know what the heck's going to happen, and we need money. So I took that job, and I opened a school, and our kids moved out here, and we had to sell our house and find a place to live and open the gym. It was like a lot of wildness that I'm really glad I went through, because I proved to myself that one is like, I can orchestrate something like this. I can plan it. I can analyze it. I could see it through, and I could succeed. And we did it. And we did the whole thing, and we did it. And I look back, and I'm proud of that, because there's a lot of moving pieces. It was not easy, man. There was a lot of pain in that sacrifice. But, that's kind of been like most of what I've been doing in my 40s, and kind of running like the jiu-jitsu media stuff. I've never been trying to like get rich on that. That was never the goal. It's just like, I just love doing it, and I want to grow it and keep doing it and then see what happens. But in my 50s, definitely I've thought like, I need to make a trip out of the country, live somewhere for a while, just to like see what it's like. Maybe I'll go live in Machu Picchu. Imagine that. Cool. Go live there. Yeah.
Build your
Where
house
is that, like in Peru? Yeah. I'm sure it would go over
Tim,
well.
What's your favorite book you've ever read? Something you think everyone else should read?
So I got a lot of books. 2 books that I'll give you 3 books. I'm sorry, it's that guy. Unlimited Power was a life-changing book for me. It was very, very useful because I had never come across that kind of information. Like, hey, you can change the way you think about things. You can adapt a positive mindset. You can visualize how you want things to go. It's not a promise, but it's like you have good brain hygiene. You're cleaning up in the brain, and you know that if that's right, and if you're focused on the right stuff, you tend to gravitate to those things. So that was like really helpful for me as a teenager growing up. And as an adult too, I've always kind of come back to that stuff. The other book that I really, really enjoyed is a book by C.S. Lewis. And he, is the classic writer of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and all that stuff, Narnia, and all the great.
We got that set sitting right here. Right
brilliant
there.
My favorite book that he wrote is a book called Mere Christianity.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a very, very, whether you are a Christian or not, I still feel like it is a very, very good book for people to read. It's not a hard read, and it's a book that was written during World War II, and, things were under particular circumstances at the time, and C.S. Lewis does a really, really good job of laying out the case for trying to be a better person. And of course, he believed it was through Christianity, but he uses that. He's a Christian apologist, so he tries to use natural, thought and rationale to prove to you that this is correct without going, the Bible says, because I grew up like that. The Bible says, well, people that don't believe in that, they're not going to believe in the Bible. The Bible's like a fictitious book in their brain. But that was a really helpful book. It was just a positive book, and it kind of like, it elevated my thought process. So that was something that was really important for me. And then the other book that I really love John Steinbeck as a fictional writer. And, of course, Steinbeck wrote some real classics of Mice and Men. What was the real popular Dust Bowl one? I can't remember. I don't remember it, but
Grapes of Wrath. Is it that one?
Grapes of Wrath. Yeah, Grapes of Wrath. Yeah. He wrote some real brilliant stuff, but my favorite book that he wrote is called The Winter of Our Discontent. And it's about a character named Ethan Allen Hawley who gets in a tight situation and decides he's going to rob a store to get out of the situation. And it was just a really brilliant book that kind of, fiction sometimes gets like, there's so much crap fiction out there that it's real easy to go like, fiction is terrible. I don't read fiction. I only read nonfiction. I don't want to read fiction. But the really great writers have a way of getting an underlying point across to you through the story and through the characters, but in a way that is realistic, that paints people not as like, this guy's good, this guy's bad, but like shows the duality in our humanity. And, there's a lot of people that want to be good that do bad things sometimes, which sucks, right? And there's a lot of people that, propose to be good and they look like they're good, but they're actually doing bad things a lot of the time. So that, just seeing that duality and that decision-making process of I'm in a jam and there's a way out, and the way out is like not the right way out, but it's a way out. And I'm tempted to take it, and that whole process of like what happens if you do and what happens if you don't. So that was a really great book that
I'm gonna have to check that one out. I haven't read that one.
Yeah.
I've read the other two, but
it's a good one.
The other two Steinbeck books you mentioned, the Grapes of Wrath and the Of Mice and Men.
Yeah, I love those books.
Oh my gosh. Well, Tim, what's next, dude? What are you gonna do from here?
So, I'm gonna keep rocking. That's for sure. I'm consistent. I'll show up 100%. We got the bullpen. We're doing Raf Esparza and I are banging that out generally every Friday. We do the official pre-show for the PGF. We got the next season's coming up at the end of March here. I'm pretty excited about that. And then I have a concept, and I've talked to you about it. I haven't shared it like publicly, but I have a concept that I've been working on, thinking about. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to bite down on it. I'm just like getting ready to bite down on it. And I'm going like, okay, I know what it means when I bite down on it. So I'm going to have all my ducks in a line, everything lined up. So yeah, that got a project coming up next, maybe around the New Year's. That's kind of that's the idea floating around in my head. So
can't wait to see it, man. I'm excited to see it. So,
I'm excited.
Tim, where can you be found?
You can find me social media, Inside BJJ. You could go to insidebjj.com. The podcast is on Spotify. If you want to listen to the bullpen, you could go to the Grappling Hour on YouTube. Inside BJJ has them also on YouTube. We have an Instagram called Bullpen Live that has quite a few clips and stuff we're doing on there. So I'm really proud of that show. We do a good job. We put that together, and it's literally just Raf and I banging it out week after week. And people don't really see the amount of work that goes into a show. Not that like a podcast is not a show, but there is a difference between a show where you're like, this is a show. It has an opening. It has it has a segment. It's running like a show versus like, this is a conversation. They're both different kinds of challenges. A conversation forces you to do research, to be prepared, to like kind of be thoughtful, okay, just like you've done today. Whereas a show is like, you got to be prepared, but you also have to be entertaining. You have to say something that's going to make somebody laugh, something that's going to provoke somebody. You know, we do a lot of little things in the bullpen that are weird, just little entertainment things that sometimes I feel like we're doing just for each other, where it's like raffle stand and go like, dude, I saw that graphic you made. I can't believe you put a reference to this in it. I'm like, oh, it's so good, huh? You know? And, you know, I think some people catch that stuff and appreciate it, but I really get a kick out of doing that. So you can check us out on the Bullpen Live.
Yeah, I get a kick out of, you know, I catch your clips you guys do a lot, and I watch that and I go, man, I don't know how in the heck you guys keep up with so much of what's going on in the grappling culture, crazy. Right? It's
yeah.
Some of it's hilarious because you guys just, I think you work good together where you're constantly, some of the back and forth is really genuine. You know, you can tell that you would do this if it was just the two of you sitting in the living room having a conversation.
We were doing it. Right? Yeah, we were two of the only guys covering it back in the day. So that's great.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, listen, Tim, I appreciate you coming on, dude. I could go another 2 hours real easy. I imagine you probably got some other stuff you want to do with your day, but it's been fascinating. You've really, really shared some wisdom here. I'm genuinely valuable conversation, listening to the way you process things in your business life and you know, some of the obstacles you've had to clear are in common with every other business owner I've ever met or talked to. You know, we all fight that same fight. And I think sometimes they say it's lonely at the top, but man, there's a lot of people that are kind of in that position where this kind of thing is very helpful to hear. So thank you for that.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. Anytime.
Awesome, man. Tim, go earn your salt, my friend.
All right, brother. You too. Thanks, Riley.
All right, dude. Hey, you've just finished up this episode, and I want to know, are you or someone you know a getting after it, go earn your salt type of person? If so, message me directly on Instagram at the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and perhaps we can have you on the show. Also, if you like this content, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And perhaps this podcast can help you and them go earn your salt.